Let's say we wanted to figure out what 1/2 minus 1/3 is equal to. And we can visualize each of these fractions. 1/2 could look like that, where if I take a whole and if I divide it into two equal sections, one of those two equal sections would be a half, and you see that shaded in green here. And then from that, we're trying to subtract a third. And we can visualize a third this way. That if this whole thing is a whole, I divide it into three equal sections, and one of those three equal sections is a third. So what we want to do is take away this gray box from this green box and figure out how we can mathematically say what is left over. So pause this video and see if you can have a go at this. And I'll give you a hint. It will be useful to be able to represent your halves and thirds in terms of a different denominator. All right, now let's work through this together. So the way that we can approach this is to get a common denominator. If I can express both fractions in terms of the same denominator, that's going to be a lot easier to subtract. And the common denominator that's most useful is to find the least common denominator. And the smallest number that is both a multiple of 2 and 3 is actually 2 times 3, or 6. So what if we were to write each of these numbers in terms of sixths? So how can we rewrite 1/2 in terms of sixths? I always have trouble saying that. Well, if I start with 1/2, and if I multiply the denominator by 3, that's going to get us to sixths. And so I don't change the value of the fraction. I need to multiply the numerator by 3 as well. As long as I multiply both the numerator and the denominator by the same thing, well, then that's still going to be equal to 1/2. And you can visualize what that looks like. If you take each of these two equal sections and turn them into 3 equal sections, well, then you're going to have a total of 6 equal sections, or sixths, 2 times 3 in the denominator. And the part that was shaded in green, which was just one of those sections, is now 3 times as many sections. So your 1/2 is now equal to 3 over 6. And we can do the same thing over here. If we start with 1/3, how do we express it in terms of sixths? Well, to go from 3 to 6, I would multiply by 2. And so I also want to do that in the numerator so that I don't change the value of the fraction. And we can visualize that. Notice, if you take all 3 sections and you turn each of them into 2 sections, you now have 6 equal sections. So you are now dealing with sixths. And that one section before is now going to become 2 sections. So this is now going to be equal to 2 sixths. So we can actually rewrite things as this is the same thing as 3 sixths minus 2 sixths. And what do you think that is going to be? Well, if I have 3 of something and I subtract 2 of them away, I'm going to be left with 1 of that something. So I'm going to be left with 1/6 in this case. And we can visualize it just the way we visualized everything else. If you take 2 of these gray bars, or 2 of these sections from these 3 sections, you're just going to be left with 1 of them. This is one of the 6 equal sections.